I am now. This is one of my latest projects. It's kind of been ongoing all year, and it's a collaborative project. It's not a my project, it's an our project. I did it with Anita Govan to her poetry. We've been chatting at the Edinburgh Literary Salon, which is a last Tuesday of the month thing that goes on in the wash bar up at the Mount, and there's lots of writers there, so I was kind of hanging around as a kind of illustrator vulture looking for potential work, and we decided to collaborate on this book of poems. Part of the idea is that these would work as individual pieces, as posters, and that may actually still be the way, one of the ways in which this works. And this was the first one, trees. When we did it, partly because I'd been in the black and white mode for the 1 o'clock gun, which I'd also been doing some stuff for, I started in black and white. And then when Anita saw it, she was like, wow, kids could colour these in, which would be a level of investment that they could give, if you know what I mean, time they could spend doing this without feeling, like they're at school. I'm not quoting her, I think she said it a little bit more eloquently than that. She goes to schools and stuff, and she tries to kind of help kids to kind of appreciate literacy and even poetry, which not many kids leap to immediately. When we got to a certain number, we started discussing the idea of it being a booklet. Each page has a picture on it and a poem, although they have an interesting story too, because a lot of them were built, I believe, in collaboration with children, with adults, with adolescents. Working collaboratively has been fascinating for me because, I have worked collaboratively. I've worked hugely collaboratively over a period of 10 years with Peter Rubel making video games, and that was great. But part of our collaboration was largely, let's just go off and do our own thing, which was fun. Certainly artistically, I've normally worked on my own, and it has been really fun going through somebody else's ideas, somebody else's stories. Right, Anita's worked collaboratively before. She's got music and even videos set to her poetry, and as a result, she kind of knew what to throw at me. She kind of knew how much data to give me. So normally when I've got a poem, I've not just got the poem, but I've got the story of where it came from. This one was, I think that one was in a classroom. Light. That's another. That's one that I think she performs quite a lot, and the picture was very much based on her description of the performance, where she'd go out with a match or a lighter in the darkness and read her poem. Anita does a lot of work with children and young adults, and sometimes young adults in environments that don't scream to all of us poetry. There's one in here, word boxing. This was actually improvised up either at or in between sessions in a local boxing club. And I think from what I know, when she first went in, they were not wildly sure about the poetry playing a big role in their boxing community, but they ended up really quite enjoying it, I think. Pupa. That was an odd one. Very much the idea was to make a pupa and stick the poem inside it. But then it became something else. I think that in a way looks more like a kind of Victorian mirror or something like that. I think that was a snowball fight with her son. The universe. This one is actually done in full colour as well. In fact, this one's actually done in I don't know what to call it, in interactive multimedia format, in a video game engine. Train, I don't know a story about that one actually. Often when I know the stories, it's because I struggled a little bit to illustrate them, so I'd ask loads of really irritating questions. I was very worried about kind of charging in and imposing too much of myself in, so I asked thousands of questions. I was probably very annoying. This is where the pictures actually came from. I did them directly into this watercolour book. It's a lovely watercolour book. And, this is what they actually look like in situ. I decided not to add text myself here. I did that on the computer. If I was a gifted master of the font, or even had particularly beautiful handwriting, I might have done that, but I just decided it was much too much of a risk. I'm almost tempted to see if I can find someone who has got beautiful handwriting and get them to write them in. One very important reason to have let me show you this. Because there are actually a couple of new ones. It would be nicer to do a larger book at a later date, and I also wanted to experiment with less image and more poem, because some of Anita's poems that we originally looked at, they were quite large, and that was going to be a struggle to get them together. I suspect that at a later date it might be nice for some of them just to have a border. And this one, Your Eyes. Always terrifying doing a cover. You know, if you've done pictures, there's always going to be ones that you love more and less than others. And obviously if you hate the cover, that was a real problem with Brother Goose. I never got happy with the cover. I did it several times. We managed to get the printing cost down enough for us to be able to sell this at £3.50, and I think it's got 7 or 8 poems in it, all kind of fully illustrated. I was very worried about the price. I think when you print something, you really don't know what it's going to come out like, and it's pretty. We did the cover 2 colour, and it kind of gives it a slightly vintage look. It's probably worth noting that I've got a thing about books as objects, image books. A lot of my favourite artwork appears in books. People like Arthur Rackham, Joseph Cartwright. There's something about a book that says love, it's been bound, it's been glued together, it's been thought about, it's been arranged. You know, I kept mentioning the Book of Kells when I was doing this, and I know this isn't quite the Book of Kells, but in a way, a lot of these poems involve either her life or the life of people around her, whether it's a bunch of kids at a boxing club, environmental concerns about trees, travel through space, or the lack of, and trains, snowball fights, and Celtic princesses. In that way, it's a really fun little book. It kind of tells stories that mix the imagination and the reality of our existence in Scotland, Edinburgh, in the latter part of the 20th and the earlier part of the 21st century. This is the Book of Anita, the original. I wanted to share this project because, you know, it's exactly what I wanted, and yet it means that, you know, I think in many ways, you know, I didn't want to share it too soon, and as a result, I've looked quite quiet this year, along with my exhibition, which was a lot running around too, and the truth of the matter is I've been far from quiet. No, that'll do.